Tony, you know what that's the sound of? That's the sound of we're live on Fish Bluewater YouTube channel. Right here in Deerfield Beach at the Pelagic store, which let me just get this out of the way for starters. Pelagic, we are so stoked to have you guys on board as new sponsor partner in the inaugural Florida Sailfish Cup. They are the official performance eyewear sponsor, performance apparel sponsor of the Florida Sailfish Cup. And all I can say is, Tony, this store is amazing. I've been in here a few times, but so you're the special events coordinator. Let me start by making that introduction for you guys watching the video. And I know you've been a part of the Pelagic team for a long while. How long has this store been here in Deerfield?
We've been here 2 years, September, so we just passed our second anniversary. Couldn't be happier with the location and being here. And as you see, the store is kind of like a destination store. We have some incredible fish mount artwork from King Sailfish mounts, and it's just a really cool store with most of our products. And I know we've been working on towards this for quite some time now, so we're equally as stoked at Pelagic to be now associated with Bluewater movements and all your fantastic events here in South Florida, and we're really looking forward to the partnership.
Yep. No, it's been a long time coming, but I think it's one of the most natural partnerships for us, I think, as far as the Pelagic brand and what you guys represent and the fishing community and the fishing lifestyle down here. So we're super pumped to have you guys as a part of the sponsor family here with Bluewater Movements. Not just for the Florida Cup, but we've got some fun announcements to come here for some of our other events in the near future. So stay tuned for that. And, you know, we said to ourselves, like, where are we going to do this live stream? Because obviously, you know, the Florida Sailfish Cup is a new tournament for us. We run 7 tournaments a year now. We have the very popular Quest for the Crest Sailfish Series, which is the premier sailfish series here in the U.S. for that matter. And then we run a very fun, family-oriented local meat fish series that you've been a part of.
Yeah.
You've been a part of all of our events off and on over the years,
yeah,
called the Pompano Beach Saltwater Circuit, which is, I'm a little embarrassed to admit this because I'm giving away some of my age, but we're 26 years into running that series alone.
Wow, I didn't realize it's been that long. That's amazing.
Yeah,
and
man.
those are, obviously, we talk about all the time, that's just a fantastic series.
It's great. It's great. And so you guys have really made a commitment to the fishing community here in South Florida, and we are, I think it's evidenced even further by stepping out and the relationship that we have here together. So with the Florida Cup, it's a completely new tournament, right? It's a completely new concept. We've had tremendous response to it, and we've also had a lot of questions. So we said to ourselves as we were kind of preparing for this big kickoff party that's going to be happening next weekend up in Stewart at Pirates Cove Resort and Marina, October 15th through the 17th. We've got our big kickoff party Friday night. And this is all a fun event for the opening weekend. We're going to play some golf. We've got a best ball scramble Saturday, which is also going to be a fundraiser for the family of Patrick Price, who passed away tragically, obviously, from COVID recently. And he was just such an he was a pillar in the fishing community down here, and especially in his hometown of Stewart. So, you know, we wanted to, and we felt obligated to being up there to see how we could help his family. And so that golf scramble is going to be a fundraiser for them, and then we're going to party like rock stars in Port Salerno and hit a bar crawl Saturday night and all that fun stuff. But that's not what this feed is all about. This feed is really about trying to help provide some oversight as to the format, the concept of the Florida Cup, and then answer some questions that have been thrown our way from our followers on Instagram and social media, and some really good questions that have been asked of us. Because again, like anything else that's new, I think there's a learning curve that goes on. There's some, I think, misunderstandings as far as, you know, how procedures work and how formats work. So this video will serve to answer hopefully a lot of those questions that people have. And you being a guy who's very well versed in tournament competition, if you hear me talking about something that you have raises your brow or you have any questions.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I've always been very complimentary about how you run your events and over the years anyway. And, you know, there's nothing like variety, and to have the same types of tournaments all the time sometimes can get a little bit stale. And so to have something like this is just, I think it's a fantastic idea, and it opens up our sport and opportunity to compete the whole state, and gives people kind of time to fish on their own time when the days work for them. And I think it's a fantastic concept.
You nailed it. I mean, in 27 years of running tournaments, I'm as excited as I've been in a long time, because we're bringing something fresh and unique that's never been done here in the state of Florida and for these types of tournaments. So we'll start there. So, you know, how did we even kind of come up with this concept? I certainly want to give all due credit and recognition to Chip Sheehan, who's one of your pro staffers, who we fished and filmed with a while back, and who is signed up to fish this tournament as well. And we had been up in Palm Beach, I don't know, this was last year sometime, and just come back in from a day of sail fishing, and he got to talking to me over a beer after fishing, and him and Ryan, who you know, who's the owner of the Real Synergy boat, Chip had referenced some of these tournaments up in the Northeast that he's been a part of, where they're not married to like a specific day. Like you know, some of these canyon type tournaments and tuna tournaments where they give them a broader window of time because of weather and the distance they have to run and these types of things, to be a little bit more selective in their choices. And so, you know, he said to me, and it kind of got the wheels turning a little bit. He's like, I think that there could be something there for somebody like you guys, who are the premier tournament organizers in the industry, to come up with a format or a concept that for these sailfish tournaments that gives guys like us more flexibility, right? And that's the whole key, is the flexibility when it comes to the Florida Sailfish Cup, because, you know, you've seen it, we've all seen it if we've fished competitively or just fished, you know, for sailfish in general. There's so many days, right? How many days can you imagine in a tournament season where you have these insane fishing bites and they never land on a tournament?
Yeah, that happens
a lot, right?
It's been happening a lot more frequently too,
right?
Recently, where we get these different weeks or days, and yeah, you never know when it's going to be, and then all of a sudden it's just crazy.
It's a couple days before the actual tournament you're fishing, or how about the alternative? You know, the tournament that lands on terrible conditions, and fishing is terrible. Yeah, you know, we've seen that.
Rough. I mean, it still gets cold. Up north, they have to run further, but here, weather is a thing too. It's rough and cold in the wintertime, and you know, as some of us who are getting a little bit older, I could tell you, if I can pick my days and I don't have to go out there and feel like I have to get my butt kicked,
right,
I'm all about that. So that's another huge advantage.
Yeah. So I mean, those are, I think, some of the fundamental parts of what really inspired, like, the thinking, and I think the framework behind the Florida Sailfish Cup, right? And then as we started to kind of think through it a little bit more, I said, well, you know, we have this Quest for the Crest Sailfish series, which is a great series, well attended, well sponsored, and nothing is changing there. So that's one of the first questions I'll answer. There's been questions as to, is the Florida Sailfish Cup a replacement for the Quest for the Crest? Absolutely not. Operation Sailfish, Sailfish Challenge, Final Sail are here to stay. They're great events, and we will continue to do those so long as the demand is there for all the sailfish teams that are a part of it. But if you look further up the coast into Central Florida and North Florida, and you look down into the Keys, there are a lot of guys that love to fish for sailfish, right? Yeah. And they're good at it. But the structure for the Quest for the Crest and some of the requirements that come along with it, and the travel and all of those types of things, make it a little bit more complex for them, right? Yep. So we said to ourselves, well, how can we make something that's a little bit more inclusive for those guys, and do something that's on a larger scale competitively that they could be a part of? And so, you know, that's where that's where this Florida Cup concept comes in terms of covering the entire east coast of Florida. Never been done before. Basically, from a competitive standpoint, teams are going to have the opportunity to fish as far north as Fernandina Beach and all the way south into Key West. It's the whole east coast of Florida. Now, what we've done in that regard is we've also broken this state up into 4 zones. So you have North Florida is a zone, and I'll get into the specifics of the locations and the boundaries in a minute. Central Florida is a zone, South Florida zone is a zone, and the Keys is a zone. And obviously, if you fish for sailfish, you're watching this video, I'm sure you understand that the bite, right, in North Florida happens a lot earlier than it does typically in South Florida.
Well, the other thing is also you have different, you know, a lot of times everybody thinks sail fishing is all from, you know, basically Stewart or Jupiter down and then in through the Keys. But the further north you get, more and more frequently, guys who used to not be so into the sail fishing have discovered a sailfish bite up that way, and it's very good fishing. So this tournament will also bring some highlights to different little towns and areas that may normally not have been associated with sail fishing, and show that there's actually some really good sail fishing and really good sail fishermen outside of the traditional zones that we're all used to.
100%. And give guys an opportunity to show that they can put up numbers and have some really great days based on how they would normally do it in their own backyard, right? So for sure. So getting back to like the seasonality of the migration of the fish, we've set it up so that basically we're covering the entire sailfish season off the east coast of Florida from November 1st to May 31st. That's plus or minus, if my math was right the other day, I counted off 202 days. Nice. We're giving teams 202 days to basically go out and figure out when they're going to schedule and record 5 days of fishing. Yeah, so, awesome. You know, so that's another standout piece of it. And as we already said, they get to pick their own days. One of the coolest things that I love about the Pick Your Own Day feature as well is we're also offering you guys a Mulligan day up front. So, you know, you have those times, right, where you think everything's going to line up, and for some reason you go out and it just doesn't come together. So with this Mulligan day, they can buy it up front, and it basically will throw away or replace their lowest scoring day. So it becomes your 6th day, and it replaces your lowest scoring day because we're only going to count 5.
That's a fantastic idea. Something you have to buy in ahead of time.
Up front, yeah. We're not going to allow anybody to see how their 5 days go and then say, no one's getting in at that point.
So you can choose to have a mulligan or choose not to have a mulligan.
That's right. But you make that decision up front.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and I think it's, you know, let's call it what it is. It's an insurance policy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, to where if things don't go exactly as planned.
You could plan on fishing and you get out there and 2 hours into your day you blow an engine or something happens on your boat too. So it kind of gives you a little insurance that way too. Something out of your control.
So next up is talking about the prize structure. So again, there's going to be a lot of different ways that you can get in on winning prize money in this. For starters, even though the state is divided into 4 zones, we're still going to have an overall for first, second, and third, offering $25,000 for first place, $15,000 for second, $10,000 for third. We have a dead bait division specifically catering to these guys up in Central and North Florida that we understand are primarily going to be pulling ballyhoos and dredges and things of that nature, and very capable of putting up some great numbers, but doing it with dead bait. So we're offering $10,000 for the top dead bait boat, plus a dead bait Calcutta, and the dead bait guys can still get in all the other Calcuttas, which we'll get into here in a minute. So you have that overall prize structure. Within each zone, we're going to have a winner of each zone. First place slated to be $10,000 for the winner of each zone. Nice. So 4 winners across the 4 zones. Then we have overall Calcuttas, and we have zone Calcuttas. I believe there's about 6 or 7 overall Calcuttas. I know for sure there's 3 Calcuttas in each zone. And you ready for this? Would you imagine in a format like this that there would be dailies?
Awesome, really?
There are dailies. I'm going to tell you here in a minute, but there are going to be dailies. So
everybody loves a daily.
hey, it's like it's 5 one-day tournaments, right? You're going out fishing, and whether you're pre-fishing for another tournament, you're fishing for a tournament that you use a Florida Cup day for, which we'll talk about. Wouldn't it be exciting to know that that day could be worth 50 grand? You know, when any other day it was just about having fun and hanging flags on the riggers, which there's nothing wrong with that. But
yeah, well, you know, when you fish a circuit too, when you're fishing the tournament season and you're a crew, it's a lot of dedication and hard work. And, you know, sometimes it gets frustrating. Things aren't going your way. And those daily Calcuttas in every tournament, even if you're not doing so well in a particular term or something, to wake up in the morning and know in your brain that you still have a shot at that daily is a huge motivator, keeps you sharp.
Keeps you in the game.
Yeah,
keeps you in the game.
Always great to have dailies.
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about the fee structure as far as the basics. So, and what that includes. $1,500 is your base entry fee. We don't charge any additional fees for anglers or anything like that, for additional anglers. And within that $1,500, we're going to give you guys a really cool dry bag, just like this, that is stuffed with 6 of these badass pelagic Aquatech Performance long sleeve shirts. My man, Pete Aggerty, threw down some ridiculous artwork on this shirt. So we got 6 of those coming to you guys, along with 6 social bands for the opening party and the awards party. We already talked about the social events and the opening party at Pirates Cove Resort and Marina, Stewart, next weekend, October 15th through 17th. And then as we move south through the progression of the season and everything wraps up with the fishing, we are going to wrap up the Florida Cup with a big party, sandbar style, down in the Keys, Islamorada, Florida, in early June.
That's a great
idea.
So
we're stoked on that too.
Cool.
So you've got that, you've got all the prize structure, and right here in front of me as well, which we'll talk about, each registered team is going to receive one of these Florida Sailfish Cup flags with your registration. This flag actually is, beyond just the logo itself, will serve a functional purpose in the tournament, because every time you schedule a day, when your team comes in from fishing, we are going to require them to fly this flag to identify that they're a team that's a part of the Florida Cup, and identify obviously that it's a scheduled day of fishing for them from a visual standpoint. So,
makes sense.
So you'll get all of that stuff, great parties, great prize structure, killer shirts, bag, flag, the list goes on. $1,500 a boat. I'm not sure that you could ask for much more than that, right?
That's the great thing about your tournaments as well, Jamie. You make it so that just about anybody can get in, and then it's up to you how much you want to commit.
Right.
But you can, it's affordable for the average everyday guy to get in, and which is very much appreciated, I'm sure.
That's the goal. All right, next up, we're going to talk about boundaries. So the fishing zones and the boundaries. I've already mentioned that we've got 4 fishing zones. So just to clarify, your north zone is basically going to be Fernandina Beach to Ponce Inlet. As far as your GPS coordinates, that's the 30.43 down to the 2857. Maybe in post after the fact, if I can talk Josiel into it, we'll even throw those coordinates up onto the screen. But Fernandina Beach to Ponce Inlet is your north zone. The central zone is going to be New Smyrna Beach down to Stewart, 2856 to the 2710. We've got a handful of boats already registered from the central zone, which we're pretty excited about, and can't wait to see how they do in the tournament. The south zone is St. Lucie, basically St. Lucie Inlet to Pacific Reef, 2709 to the 2523. And then the most southern zone is the Key Zone, which is going to be basically Key Largo all the way down to Key West, the 8010 to the 8215. And so in terms of the size of the boundary, you've roughly got a little over 100 miles in each zone that these teams can cover. And what I will say, I'm getting a little ahead of myself in the notes, but because I'm talking about the zones, I'll go ahead and address it. We've had some questions about whether or not teams can fish multiple zones, which is...
I was going to bring that up.
Sure, and it's a great question, and the answer is absolutely. You can fish multiple zones basically at any time during competition in the tournament. In fact, you can fish multiple zones in a day. And so the way that that's going to work, let me jump forward to my notes here, is each release gets scored to the zone where it occurs. So I use as an example Real Synergy, who's one of your sponsored teams. Let's say they scheduled their first day for December 1st, right?
Okay.
That's going to be day one for Real Synergy and the Florida Sailfish Cup. And let's say they're fishing in the south zone, but on the north end of that boundary in the south zone. Let's say they're relatively close to St. Lucie Inlet, and they've caught 8 fish for the day, okay? But let's say Chip gets a phone call from somebody that's out on the rip, and they're up off of Fort Pierce. And the guy says, Cap says it's going off. Chip says, break them down, we're running to Fort Pierce. And Real Synergy catches a dozen fish in the same day off of Fort Pierce. Killer, good for you guys. So the way that would work is Real Synergy has 20 fish for the day in the overall. And then, because they caught 12 fish in the central zone up off Fort Pierce, 12 of those releases will score to the central zone. The 8 that they caught in south of St. Lucie Inlet in the south zone will score to the south zone.
Okay.
So they'll have 12, 8, and 20 for the overall. Now, when you get into the prize money, the Calcuttas, and that type of stuff, here's where we can talk about the dailies, the overalls, and that kind of stuff. So their 20 fish will score towards their overall score in their first of the 5 days. Let's say Real Synergy is in the overall dailies, which I'm fairly certain they will be.
Yep.
The 20 fish that they put up overall will go, for day one, will go against every other team that has entered into the overall dailies and what they put up on their day one.
Right, regardless what day that is.
Regardless of what day and regardless of what zone.
Yep.
It's the overall. Now, the 8 fish that they caught in the south zone, if they are entered, there's 1 daily available in each zone.
Okay.
If they entered into the south zone, their 8 fish for day one will go against every other boat in the south zone and what they did for their day one.
Okay.
Follow me?
Yep.
If they happen to get into the central zone, which, you know, there's a fee, as far as the dailies go, the zone dailies, there's a fee for each zone daily.
Okay.
So you could enter the south zone daily, the central zone daily, the north, or the Keys.
Okay.
I suspect most teams will probably pick 1 or 2 at most.
Right.
But let's just say Real Synergy got into the central and the south. The 12 fish that they released off Fort Pierce on their day one would go against everybody else's day one in the central zone.
Right.
Follow me?
Yep. And they've paid to be in that.
They've paid to
daily,
be in that. They've paid to be.
Central zone daily.
That's correct.
Yep.
So if they didn't enter the central zone daily, then the 12 fish would be meaningless for the zone
right.
daily. It would apply for the overall. Now those 12 fish could still be in the running applied towards the general prize structure in that zone,
right.
which is $10,000 for the top team.
Okay.
So you can see where strategy.
So you don't have to enter in multiple zones with your team, but if you want to be involved in the dailies, you have to pay for that zone daily.
Yeah, so your general entry fee will qualify you for general price structure everywhere.
Right.
The
So
overall and the zones.
Gotcha.
Where it will get specific is in the Calcuttas. If you're not in the Calcutta for the zone, for a specific zone, you're not going to be eligible for that Calcutta zone money.
Makes perfect sense.
Right?
Yep.
And so that is where I think it's going to get interesting as people start to see this thing come to life and figure out, like, you know, the strategy. Are you going to target a specific zone? Do you think you can win the overall in one zone?
Thinking the bite's going to be hot, and then all of a sudden you made that move and Southie it goes off, and you're like, oh no, what do we do?
Absolutely. So it should get fun.
Yeah.
Fishing hours. Obviously, this is not a structured tournament in the traditional sense, but the fishing hours are the same as our fishing hours, for example, in the Quest for the Crest tournaments. We have an 8 a.m. lines in, and we have a 4 p.m. lines out. And just the same way, you've fished some of our Quest for the Crest tournaments in the past. Have you fished any of the Quest tournaments since we went to like no visual checkout and we went to like video-based checkout and that kind of stuff?
I have not.
Okay. So if you're a competitor who's fished the Quest with us before, recently, you're familiar with this. If not, I'm going to explain it to you. It's very simple. So we have a video initialization process for your morning checkout in all of our Quest for the Crest tournaments. Basically, the way it works, because all of the releases have to be documented on camera, any cameras that are going to be used by a team to verify sailfish releases in the tournament, they need to be initialized in the morning, verifying time, date, and GPS coordinates on camera with their boat number. And then basically verbally identify what zone they're in. We can figure it out with their coordinates, but we prefer them just to say, this is Team Real Synergy, boat number 5, day 1, 8 a.m., here's our coordinates at Lines End, we're in the south zone.
Okay.
That basically will serve as your checkout on video for that morning. Also for that morning, before you guys leave, or before any competing teams leave to go fish, you're going to receive an email, an automated email from your account online that basically will give you the sequence of color cards, because we use color cards, which I'm going to get into in a minute if you haven't fished with us before, and how those work. Color cards to preserve the authenticity of the release on camera. Yep. So let's say you're fishing on a boat in the tournament, and your email address is associated with the user account for your team and the Sailfish Cup website. That, either the night before or the morning of, you'll receive an email that says, good luck today, and you'll receive essentially 50 colors in sequential order, and says, this is the order. Fish 1 is red, fish 2 is yellow, fish 3 is green, fish 4 is blue. And that's going to tell you the order at which you need to shoot the colors associated with each sailfish that you release. So bear with me on that piece, and it'll all come together if you are watching this video and new to it. Because everything has to be captured on video, and the fundamental pieces as far as what need to be captured on video are fish ID, which is sailfish ID in the frame of the camera, to leader touch, and a leader cut. We require seamless video, which means the video cannot break. So after the leader is cut, your camera operator needs to move from recording that leader cut, fish ID to leader touch to leader cut, camera still rolling, comes around and films the GPS coordinates on your chart plotter machine, shows us the cell phone with time and date, and based on whatever color card we required, let's say if that was fish number 1 for Real Synergy. All right, we just got, so just pretend that we just saw the fish ID, the leader touch, and the leader cut. Let's say Ryan's on the rod. Yeah. Their camera guy comes around, says that was fish number 1 for Ryan. Time is 8:15 a.m. They show us the coordinates, and if the color for number 1 on the email we sent you was blue, they're going to show color blue, and then you can stop recording. And essentially what that does for us is when we review the footage after the event that you guys are going to upload to your account, we will be able to document that the color matches for the fish the order that it's supposed to based on what was provided to you in your email. Seem pretty straightforward?
Perfect.
Okay.
I do have a question. You might get to it.
Yep.
So if I'm fishing in that southern zone and I've declared and checked out in saying that I'm going to be fishing the southern zone, now I get that phone call from my buddy and I want to go fish the central zone. do I have to do the same thing again now and say, all right, here I'm going to the central zone, I'm making a move?
You don't have to, that's a great question. You don't have to do that as far as like a separate video piece, but if you've made a move from one zone to the next, and let's say fish number 5 was in the south zone, and you've made a move to the central zone, and the release number 6 is in the central, you go through the same process of fish ID, leader touch, leader cut, come around, film the coordinates and the time, give us the color card that we require for fish number 6, and tell us that you're in the central zone.
Okay.
I mean, we can sort it all out with GPS coordinates.
It makes it easier.
It makes it easier for us when we're reviewing the footage, just to be able to see that you're there. So yes, great question. All right. So more video pieces. This is something that we learned by experience on the quest for the Crest. We are going to require it as far as video verification in the Florida Sailfish Cup, just by nature of the fact that teams can go fishing whenever they want. It's not a structured tournament in the traditional sense. 2 minutes before lines out, your camera operator needs to be filming at all times the last 2 minutes before lines out. And the reason for that, how many times have you gotten bit right before lines out?
I've won tournaments and lost tournaments literally in the last minute and 30 seconds.
Right, right. And, you know, in a traditional tournament, you know, you've got people trying to call hookups at the end of the day, and the radio gets busy, and the cell phones are blowing up. And what we learned was, well, listen, you know, our goal is always to give our teams the credit that they deserve for the release. We require them to make sure that they meet the procedural requirements of the release, but so long as they do that, the last thing we ever want to do, if we have to, is disqualify a fish.
Right.
So by rolling that last 2 minutes, what happens is, if you get bit at 3:59 and 30 seconds, and your camera guy is operating, and Chip Sheehan yells down, "There he is on the right," he's already rolling. He can go to his phone and he can show me that it's 3:59, and you're bit.
Yeah.
Now that hookup and that release that's going to occur after lines out is never in question, and that's the reason for rolling before before lines out. So that'll be a piece that that is required as far as the end of the day is concerned. And as we move through the end of the day, let's talk about what do you do with your releases. Oh, look at this guy.
That's Hope. That's Hope Dog.
Do we have Hope on camera here? Everybody say hi, Hope.
That's Hope Dog.
She's just hoping for a slice of that pizza that came in from next door in a minute.
She runs things.
All right, so you've had a great day of fishing. You get back. It's time to record your releases and upload your video, which was a question that was actually asked from Alfredo, who is one of our registered teams from Frustrated Amateurs down in the Keys. He asked, let's see here, are there designated places that we have to turn in SD cards after fishing? The answer is nope. You return right to the dock you left from, and you're going to be able to upload your release video and enter your release information right from the comfort of your home or wherever your boat is docked. So all that will happen within your user account, which is, I mean, we don't have, so our developers are working to finish the user interface of the website right now, which will be, you know, it's a very integral part of the site. It's where you will go in to schedule your days. It's where you will go in to record your releases, upload your media. You know, if you need to add or change any team members, all of that kind of stuff will happen inside the account. But the beauty of it is you get to do it right from your account. So you'll see it soon enough. There will be some drop-down menus where they can, for fish number 1, they'll be able to add the confirmation number. They'll be able to add the color that, you know, it applied to. They'll be able to add the zone where it occurred, and then there'll be an upload button where you upload the footage for all of those releases. We get a notification after the end of fishing, which all of your footage and all of your release information we're giving you till 8 o'clock that evening to get that into the system.
Beautiful.
You know, which is roughly 4 hours after fishing, which we feel should be sufficient.
Yeah, and you know, you pick a guy who's savvy about that stuff on your team. He's the guy that does it for all 5 of your days throughout the course of the thing. That's a great
tip.
Most top teams have a guy who's their camera guy. They have their anglers.
Yeah.
They have
whoever is the most tech savvy on your boat should be the person that's kind of managing this type of stuff, because it's not complicated at all. But if they're good at it, I've always said
there's less chance for mistakes.
Give people responsibilities.
One guy's doing
that they're
it's
good
always
at.
the best. Yeah.
Yep, for sure. All right. So then another cool feature of the site, because everything is going to be real time. So you've gone out fishing, for example, you caught your fish, you recorded your release numbers, or your fish releases and all that stuff. You've uploaded your video. Our admins will get a notification that Team Real Synergy, or whoever the boat is, has uploaded their media and entered their releases, where we then can go in and review the footage. Once we review the footage and make sure it meets all the criteria of the release, and we approve it, it will then automatically propagate those results to a real-time leaderboard on the website that you as a competitor can refer back to on a daily basis to watch how that leaderboard continues to change.
Nice.
with teams competing from North Florida all the way down to Key West.
That's cool. And then you can, like, if you see if you're out there and you had a good day and you're already on the board and you're ahead, and then you see someone else creeping up on you.
Yep.
That can kind of give you, I better get back out there and get my 3rd day in so this guy doesn't get, yeah, that's cool.
We're going to have like an ESPN style ticker where that'll be kind of like a fishing now ticker. You'll be able to see scrolling across the page at any given time on the homepage of the website who's actually fishing on any given day,
nice.
What zone they're fishing in, where they're from, all that kind of stuff. Which should be very interactive and very informative.
Man. The future of fishing tournaments is beautiful.
You know what? I think there's a place. I think there's a place for the kind of tournaments that we've always run, but I think there's an opportunity to run some really cool events like this. And this format, with a release format, you know, people have asked me about the meat fishing side of things. This gets way more complicated when you start introducing meat fish into it, and where you're going to weigh them and scales and all that kind of stuff. But in a release format like this, I think it could work beautifully, and you know, we're excited to roll it out. All right, so questions and answers. So that's kind of just a synopsis on the general overview format of the Florida Cup. Ladies who are behind me, I've got 2 lovely ladies that work for me that are here making sure that I look halfway presentable and do my job right. Have I covered most of the general overview? Is there anything I need to touch on before I get into some specific Q&A? You have any other?
No, you pretty much covered what I was going to ask you about that changing zones thing.
What about fishing in another tournament while you're in
Yep, that's coming.
Okay.
We've got a specific question Julie just mentioned about fishing multiple events. Let me start with this, though. So registration. Because we have basically a competitive season that starts November 1st and runs all the way through May 31st, registration for the Florida Sailfish Cup will close October 31st. So you can register through October 15th, all the way up to the kickoff party at Pirates Cove for the early entry fee of $1,500 per boat. Optional Calcuttas beyond that. After the 15th, it goes up to $2,000 per boat, and that's available through October 31st. After October 31st, we are closed for business on registrations for the Florida Cup, because we can start taking, obviously, results with boats going fishing. All right, so keep that in mind for those of you, obviously, that are planning to register. One of the questions we had from multiple people, do we have to schedule all of our days in advance? Absolutely not. You can schedule these a la carte as you go, one at a time. Now,
what's the actual latest I can say I'm fishing a day?
Great question. So in scheduling a fishing day, you have until 6 p.m. the day before to schedule.
Okay.
So if you were going fishing tomorrow, 6:44, we're late. You got to wait till the following day. You could schedule for the following day after that.
Right.
You have until 6 p.m. the day before to schedule your day of fishing. Now, we know some people can have a little bit of, what do we call it? Sometimes they say buyer's remorse. I guess I would call it scheduler's remorse.
Yeah.
So if you change your mind and you've scheduled a day, you have until 11 p.m. that same day to change your mind. After 11 p.m., if you have not canceled the day for the next day, you are going fishing or you're taking a 0 for the day. That's your choice.
So if at 5:30 I schedule my day for the next day, and then something happens that evening at 9:30 at night, I get a call or something happens with the engine, whatever.
Right.
Up until 11 o'clock, I can then cancel that day.
Absolutely.
And that won't count. That's a good idea.
Yep, you can all the way up until 11 o'clock. Here's another question that was asked about: do we need to have the same crew all the time? Now, I'm going to make this a two-part answer because you just posed a good point of mechanical issues. We've created this format to make it as flexible, I think, as any tournament format can be, and really to give teams as many options as they could possibly have. So on the crew side, you do absolutely not have to have the same crew all the time. Flexibility is the name of the game in the Florida Sailfish Cup. And we understand that sometimes, typically you can look at the conditions, right?
Yeah.
And you can say, hey, although the fish seem to be biting better on a south wind these days than a north, but traditionally speaking, let's say we got a north wind coming in a couple of days. We know there's been some north tide. Thursday's going to looking pretty good. We can reach out to our crew and say, hey, can you guys be on the ready for this Thursday because it looks like it's going to go off.
Right.
In the event that you've got some guys on the team that work-wise, they're a little bit, they require more notice or they can't get away on a spontaneous bite, and you need to scoop up 2 or 3 guys to go capitalize on a great day of fishing in the middle of the week or whenever, you absolutely can do that. This is a team tournament.
Cool.
You need to sub people in and out. It's a team sport. Go for it. We would rather see you find some capable hands or some guys that can go fishing and go schedule the day when you want to schedule it rather than miss out on that day because a couple of your crew members weren't available. And to that point, if you have a boat issue and let's say you found that out at 9 o'clock at night or whatever and you didn't want to lose the next day, but you can find another boat, you can absolutely swap to a different boat. Whether it's your own personal backup boat or somebody else's on the team. The only thing that we want to be transparently clear about is the points that you accrue in the Florida Cup will remain with the registered boat
team
and the owner of that boat.
Okay.
So in other words, you couldn't come to me and say, hey, boat's down, we're going to take our day one with 25 releases and hop on with Blue Tails, who's already signed up for this event. You can't take those to another registered team.
Right.
So you could find a replacement boat.
Now, do I have a time limit on my replacement boat? Can it be the next morning?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. No time limit on.
Any releases will be credited to the original team that I've registered.
That's right. Yeah. That's correct. Yep. Do the fishing days have to be consecutive? That was another question. Answer is no. Yeah. And I get where some of the thinking comes from that because traditional tournaments, everybody's used to most of those days being back-to-back. You have a few tournaments here and there where you can pick your 2 out of 3 or whatever the case may be. But again, that's the beauty of the Florida Sailfish Cup. Guys, you get to decide. All decision-making power resides with you. 202 days, 5 days, 6 days if you buy that Mulligan up front. And man, if you can't figure out how to log those 5 days in 202, I don't know what else to tell you.
I love that idea.
You know what I'm saying?
Buying a Mulligan day.
Yeah.
That is a great thing. I mean, a lot of sports have that.
Why not in fishing?
Your worst score gets your highest and your lowest gets thrown out, and then it's the average. But
absolutely,
that's a great idea.
All right, and so Julie Potter, my event manager in the background, she brought up a good question that has been asked by some other teams. Can we schedule a Florida Cup day during another tournament? Yes. Double dipping is all good
Nice.
in the Florida Cup. The only thing I will say to that is if it's not a tournament that's run by Bluewater, i.e. the Quest for the Crest, and you wanted to schedule a day for the Buccaneer Cup up north or the Silver Sailfish Derby or the Gold Cup in the Keys, we would just need you to share a copy of the rules for us so we could review them to make sure there's nothing we would need to discuss with the team if they were doubling up on days. Now, I will say that our rules are probably, I don't mean this in a negative way, but they're more angler friendly in terms of how we approach them. We allow more rods than a lot of other sailfish tournaments and other things. So it's likely if you scheduled another tournament that was a non-Blue Water Movements tournament and you're abiding by the rules they require, you're probably going to be fine with our rules because our rules would probably allow you to do more at times than theirs would anyways. So, but that's how we would work that. Now, I'll also say...
you might also want to check with that tournament you're fishing because there are some tournaments that won't allow you to fish another tournament while you're fishing their tournament. So
that I don't know about.
That's
I don't,
nothing we can control.
Right. I would hope they wouldn't. I don't know what would be the downside to that if they're following that tournament's rules. But
I can tell you
we at Blue Water Movements and the Florida Sailfish Cup do not have a problem with double dipping. So you want to do it, go for it. We had a question about the dailies. I addressed that earlier on, so I'm not going to repeat that. If you're just tuning in now and you missed that, you'll be able to watch it back here in a little bit. We talked about SD cards and turning in footage, that's something that you'll be able to do from your own computer at home in your account for the website. Here's a good question.
I was going to ask this one.
Is there a scoring differential for dead bait and live bait? The answer for the Florida Cup is no. But I want to emphasize that specifically for the guys who do the dead bait thing further up north, remember, you have a dead bait price structure, you have a dead bait Calcutta, and the majority of all your competitors, let's say for example in Central and North Florida, are all going to be doing the dead bait thing anyways. So you're going to be competing amongst a group of peer competitors that by and large, I think the technique is going to be the same. And you tell me if you feel differently. The reason that in talking with some of the teams, I mean, you know, you look at all these tournaments up down the coast and you look at, you know, the bites that go off of Fort Pierce, Ponce Inlet, you know, New Smyrna, when it's their season up there, it's nothing for these guys that pull dredges and ballyhoos and mullets and that type of stuff. They could put up 20 plus days, easy,
absolutely.
Easy.
30, 40
I've seen
fish.
30, 40 fish days up there, no problem.
Absolutely.
So don't think, now to come down here where the bottom contour changes, the edge gets much more defined, you don't have the flat bottom that they have further up north, I get it. You know, the ratio, you know, probably from Jupiter south, it makes sense. But up that way, where they're going to be able to do what they would normally do anyways, I don't think the ratio is necessary.
Well, that's a great point that you bring up. In actuality, because of the shape of the bottom, because of how the fish are behaving and what they're eating at different parts of the season when they're up north, actually live baiting in a traditional dead bait zone could actually be a disadvantage for you. Sometimes it's difficult to catch a fish on any bait, but sometimes it's easier to catch one on dead bait in an area where they're just not responding because of their natural habitat and their natural reaction.
Well, look, you have these. I've seen these tournaments that, you know, in the North Palm Beach, Jupiter area that let boats go as far north as almost Fort Pierce. And there's been times when those tournaments have occurred that the dead bait guys have found the fish up there. The live bait guys will try to run up there to compete with them, and they get it handed to them because they just can't. They can't. You know, the fish are zoned in on a completely different type of bait, you know, and they're so much more effective at how they get on those fish when it's going like that, you know, everything has its trade-off. So what I will say to that as well, if you're a dead bait guy and you're watching this video, is we do allow dredges. We allow 2 artificial or natural dredges. And we're also going to allow you to pull 2 daisy chain style teasers. So the squid chains out of the riggers or whatever the case may be, you want to pull those, we will allow those as well. I don't expect a live bait guy to do that, but if they wanted to, they'll have that ability. The only thing to remember with the dredges and the teasers, we do not allow any live bait teasers or anything of that nature.
Yeah.
Here's one thing that we've gotten a lot of good feedback on that I think there's a good probability we're going to carry this all the way across not only the Florida Cup, but the quest for the Crest is the hook in hand. And there's been people that have asked, is hook in hand allowed? Because you have, obviously you have different levels of experience on the boats, and you have some of these boats that have crews with owners who, love to fish and love to be a part of it. Maybe they're not as professional as some of these others. And, you have some of these tournaments where it takes a little bit of the pressure off of some of the anglers if they feel like it's not all riding on their shoulders. Mm-hmm. Somebody, hooks the fish, they pass it off to an angler. I'll be honest with you. Fishing is probably one of the most team sports that I think there is, and I think it's always about the team. And for me, if you remove an angler standing from a tournament, does it matter who catches the fish? In my opinion, no, because it's a team sport. And so if you hook the fish and things get crazy around a boat and the rod has to go from, you pass the rod from one guy to the next while somebody's trying to get up there and get a leader touch, to me that's all part of the team effort. And if you get that fish as a result of doing that, congratulations to you. So, for the Florida Cup, and this was a conversation we actually had up at Sailfish Marina in Stewart, and a couple of the captains were very intrigued because they have owners on their boats that are far more comfortable in tournaments where there's a format that allows, a hooked fish to be passed to an angler. So, different people will have different opinions, but at the end of the day,
well, some of us who are traditionalists or who have been doing it a long time, obviously we have a lot of experience. I mean, we'd love to be able to hook the fish, catch the fish, and have that be the case. But let's be honest, we really want to have our sport be open to as many people as possible. We want people to get more involved in fishing tournaments and getting involved in our sport.
Right.
And if you can have some tournaments like this, it's an all statewide East Coast tournament, and you can, we do the same thing with some of our pelagic tournaments where we want to encourage some people not to be intimidated and still be able to partake in the event. So,
right.
And some people don't like it at all, but I feel that there's a place for both.
There is. There's a place. There is a place for both. But I think here's where the rubber meets the road for me. Like, everybody should want to grow the sport. Absolutely. And the sailfish tournaments can have a reputation for being very competitive, right? And if you're watching this video and you've never fished a sailfish tournament, trust me, you don't know what you're missing. I've fished tournaments competitively for my whole life, and by a mile, the competitive sailfishing experience is my favorite.
It's intense.
It's so intense. It's so fun. The poetry of the back and forth of the leaderboard, and you're tied, and then you have the lead in first place, and then an hour later you're in 10th place, and turning a single into doubles and triples. It's so exhilarating. But I also understand where it can be intimidating, right? Absolutely. For the average angler.
Yep.
But how can they ever get better if we don't give them an opportunity to get in the game and build their confidence? And so if some of these teams that are on the sidelines that are saying more pressure than I want, or we can't compete, or I'm not good enough, if we give them an opportunity to take that pressure off a little bit, and it's more about the team and less about the individual, I think that's a good thing.
I do too.
And so, that's something I want to make sure that teams understand, is that if that's a program that you're comfortable with and you prefer, you're going to have that option in the Florida Cup. And we're just excited. I mean, it's such a cutting edge new concept in tournament fishing. We hope that we're going to come out of the gate gangbusters by the 1st of November. But it's even if it takes some time to grow it, I think once we get teams into this and they experience being out on the water, and all of a sudden a day that was just kind of, you know, your everyday fishing trip offshore turns into something that can mean as much, you know, as it does in the Florida Cup, because it's a true tournament day now.
Yep.
And you don't, you know, you get the opportunity to really capture those epic, epic, epic days of fishing in a tournament format. My only disappointment is that I gotta watch it from the sidelines, as I always do anymore.
No, I think it's a fantastic idea, and it's a great concept, and it's I'm stoked about it. I know at Pelagic we're very excited about it, and we're proud to be a part of it, and anything we can do to help it grow, we're all in, man.
Well, cheers to that, brother.
Yeah, absolutely.
So more great things from Tony to come here at Pelagic. We're stoked to have you guys as the performance apparel and eyewear sponsor of the Florida Sailfish Cup. I couldn't think of any better, and I'm just excited for the partnership that we have going forward with you guys. And hopefully, for those of you guys that are tuning in and have been watching this live feed, hopefully it answers a lot of the questions that you have. These are the ones that have been thrown our way. If we've missed anything, you can hit us up on our DM on Instagram at FishBlueWater. You can email me, jbunn@bluewatermovements.com or info@bluewatermovements.com. But other than that, we hope to see you next Friday, October 15th, for the Big Bash, the kickoff party at Pirates Cove Resort Marina in Stuart, Florida. Pelagic will be up there.
We'll be there with a lot of giveaways and free
Partying
stuff.
hard, registering teams.
Absolutely.
Golf on Saturday, party on Saturday night, and get ready for that November 1st kickoff. Jamie Bunn, Fish Blue Water. We'll see you for the next video.
Yes. Awesome.
Good stuff.
They're the best at it. Blue water.
We knocked that out in an hour.
I definitely earned a piece